Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm back, which means that music is back. Zachary Smith, Alan Saunders. Alan, what's going on?
Not too much, man. I got to say, I really appreciate your presence on the podcast, not just because I really enjoy talking with you, but also it's a lot more work for me when you're gone.
Yeah,
I'm really glad you're back, because yesterday, I mean, if it was like during the middle of the off season, I don't care, but like mini camp had a lot going on. I was hosting while I was driving, it's not like it's any more difficult, but it's just there's a lot more to do, and man, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah,
that one guy in the audience the other day was like, we need more of Alan and Nick. He's probably not glad you're back. But, I'm glad you're back.
I want to know. I want to know how everybody's feeling about the shades too. We both got them on today. You obviously, because you're actually outside. Even though I am just in my basement, I am still wearing them. Probably will be for about a week. I had an eye appointment yesterday. Hopefully good. We're treating it like it's an infection, and I use these special eye drops, but there's no scratch or no damage to my eye or anything like that. So that's good. But I will be wearing these probably for about a week. So when we'll go from there. But I'm happy to be back. So yeah, the Bears will be here for at least a week. I appreciate that side by side, by the way, and I think the people liked it. So all good on that end. Alan, very newsworthy day. That was the first thing that you said to me when you joined the room today. And let's just get down into it. A lot of different things to talk about. I want to start. I asked you if you had a specific thing you want to start with. You said no. Well, good, because I did have a specific thing that I wanted to start with. Minkah Fitzpatrick, getting back to Minkah Fitzpatrick in 2024. TA touched on it. It's about getting Minkah back to playing Minkah ball, which I feel like has kind of just been like thrown around. It's this new term this year at Steelers. Well, OTAs and now mini camp, but doing Minkah stuff. I want to know, what all does that entail other than just, I guess, not being around the line of scrimmage as much?
I think doing Minkah stuff is putting him in a position where he is in zone coverage. Like, they're not going to say that, and I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, but I'm reading between the lines here. When you're in zone coverage, you can read the quarterback's eyes, react to the play, and make a play on the football. And I think the thing that made Minkah Fitzpatrick special when he was, an all-pro here was his ability to get his hands on the ball and to make plays that were just titanic in terms of the impact of games. How many games did he have what you might call the game-winning or game-sealing play on in his Steelers career? An inordinate number for a free safety, which is, in some defensive schemes, the least impactful guy on the field, right? Just don't let him score a touchdown, right? I mean, that's what they used to tell high school kids, right? You just, So I think he has the ability to do that. He's still going to move around. I don't think you're not going to see him in the slot. I don't think you're not going to see him up and around the line of scrimmage. They're not going to just put him in center field and leave him there. But I think it's going to be more about letting him get his eyes on the quarterback and letting him read what the offense is trying to do, and then use his elite closing speed, his great anticipation, his hands, his smarts to make those kind of splash plays. That to me is what Minkah ball is. Minkah ball is, oh man, this is starting to look bad for the Steelers. Oh, there's a pick six. Oh, this game will be over if they get a stop on this drive. There's the turnover to seal the game. To me, that's what Minkah ball is, and I think there's a lot of reasons why listen, coaches say a lot of things this time of year, and I'm sure they mean them all in their head, but they don't all come out that way on the field in the fall. Things coaches say are going to happen this year in June, they're batting about 300 on those, in terms of actually following through with doing all the things they say they're going to do. But I have a lot of reasons to think that they will be able to do this. And I think the biggest reason is they have a much better secondary and coverage. They don't need him to do some of the other stuff. I don't think the Steelers were having Minkah Fitzpatrick cover tight ends in the slot because they really wanted that as the best thing for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think the best thing for Minkah Fitzpatrick I think they didn't have anybody better. And I think now that they have Deshaun Elliott, they have Patrick Queen, they have Payton Wilson, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. They have Cam Sutton back. Their cornerback situation is much more secure with Dante Jackson opposite Joey Porter, who will now come into the year as the starter instead of, kind of coming through the ranks halfway. I think it's a whole different vibe in that secondary around him, where I think you feel like you don't need Minkah to do so many other things, and he actually can just sit back there, read, react, and make plays.
Well, okay, so you answered my follow-up in there, because I was just saying, okay, now how do you, like you said, you can say things, but now how do you put it to use? How do you practice that as well? Is it more about just that upgraded personnel, or is it schematic changes that you expect to take place?
I don't think it's big schematic changes. I just think it's upgraded personnel, and I think, I think the schematic change I'd be looking for is taking the work away from Minkah. Like, how much can Patrick Queen and Payton Wilson cover the guys that Minkah was covering last year? How much can Cam Sutton and heck, maybe Beanie Bishop cover the guys? How much can Deshaun Elliott do that, like, Keanu Neal and like the other Eric Rowe and Trenton Thompson weren't able to do last year? I think that 3 safety package is going to be a big deal. And, they put it in for a reason. It's been fairly successful when they used it. But for one reason or another, it just keeps becoming, KZ was suspended and he broke his arm. And then last year, Minkah got hurt and KZ was suspended and half the safety room was dead and dying and wounded. And they were, they haven't been able to deploy that plan the way they've wanted to. And I think that's going to be a significant part of what they do. So I think it's not like a new schematic change. It's like a get back to some of the stuff they've been trying to do that for a number of reasons they haven't been able to. And so I think, like, I'm a lot less skeptical about something like that when it's stuff they've done before and you've been able to see that they've wanted to do it. They just haven't been able to.
Okay, so let's keep along that same train then with stuff that TA said today, and can we see it come to fruition? You mentioned we were going to talk about Payton Wilson in a little bit. Let's talk about him right now. Mentioned that he could compete for a dime linebacker role. That is a role that he could carve out for himself this season. We've talked about, like, how much could Cole Holcomb's availability impact, how much that Wilson was going to play in year one. We've talked about, is that going to be the determining factor? Or even if he isn't able to go, are they going to thrust a third-round rookie into that much of a position? What is your take on this? Could he be the dime linebacker for this team? Should we take what TA says at face value?
Yeah, I mean, Payton had already said he's been working there. I've seen him working there. They haven't done a ton of dime so far. They don't do a ton of dime anyway, to be perfectly honest. It's not like, remember when Joey was playing as the dime corner at the beginning of the year last year, he was getting 7 snaps a game, so it's not necessarily a big role. So, yeah, I absolutely think he can do it. I wonder if it's to me, it feels a little bit forced. I certainly believe that Patrick Queen is capable of doing that role, and being very good at it, and probably would be better at it right now. But I think it's a strong sign of faith in the player that they think Payton Wilson is and can become, that they, just like with Joey last year, they want him to have a role. They don't want him to just be somebody's backup, but they want there to be something that he is doing from week one, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And so, yeah, I do think he will be the dime linebacker. It certainly fits the skill set. I I think Queen would be better at it, but he'd also, maybe they're already going to be putting a lot on his plate. Maybe not having to play him every snap will not be the worst thing in the world either. And again, like I said, at the end of the day, they don't play very much dime, so it's not a big role no matter what. I do think that we will see Payton Wilson win it in training camp.
What's interesting to me, and I think we've touched on this a bit in the past, but as we're talking about it more, it's so interesting because, like, a common notion throughout the fan base is that this team doesn't play rookies very early on. And, going back to last year, people were clamoring for Broderick to play earlier, Joey to play earlier, Keanu Benton to play more snaps. But like you were talking about here, they're looking for a role for a third-round rookie and Payton Wilson here to carve out from day one. Now, obviously, what that role is going to be, we don't know. But that's on top of, we expect Zach Frazier, obviously, like at least I don't know about you. I expect him to win the job. Roman Wilson going to have a very prominent role. Troy Fautanu could start from day one. So like a lot of these narratives that we've talked about within this fan base over the last few seasons kind of being dispelled, I feel like.
Yeah, I always feel like those narratives are generally wrong anyway. I mean, coaches don't not play better players. I think coaches and fans sometimes have different ideas about what a better player is. I think a coach would much rather have consistency than ceiling out of their players. You can scheme around average but consistent players. You can't scheme around inconsistency. If people are doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing or are not regularly capable of executing the things they're supposed to execute, the scheme falls apart. And that's how you get touchdowns. Like as a coach, like if this guy is just not quite good enough and he gives up some plays, but the rest of the scheme stays intact, then the rest of his teammates can pick him up. And maybe you'll give up some yardage, but you're not going to give up big plays. You give up big plays by busted coverages, missed assignments, somebody doing something that then takes somebody else out of position, and the whole defense breaks down. George Pickens got one of those today. He cut a ball from Russell Wilson. I don't think there was anybody within 30 yards of him, right? So, like, those are the things that drive coaches nuts. A guy being slow and average and not being able to really do all the parts of the job all that well, but he does what he does very consistently, coach will take that because they can deal with it. They can work with it. And it won't kill them. It might hurt them, but it won't kill them. And so I think fans and coaches sometimes have different ideas about what good is. But the other part is, like, fans fall in love with these guys and they've never even seen them play. Like, I'm watching Roman Wilson every day. Like, if the Steelers play a game right now, I don't think Roman Wilson dresses. Like, and that's not saying that, like, he's ruined as a player or not going to be good this fall. But, like, there's, like, the transition to the NFL is difficult, and guys do not take it at the same rate. I think the other thing about this is, Keanu Benton actually brought this up to me, is that he said, people talk about the rookie wall a lot, and he said, I never felt that last year. And Joey said this to me last year, is that by the end of the year, was thinking in my head, oh my God, if I had played every rep from the beginning of the season like I am now, I would never have made it. Like, I would not be able to do it right now. And like these guys, not only are they not used to the length of the NFL season, not only are they not used to the competition, but when they finish their football season, they go straight into combine prep. They don't take any time off. And not only do they not take any time off, they start training their body to do things that are not football. And then as soon as the combine prep is done, then they have to start training their body. They don't get more time off. Then they have to go back to get their body back to football shape so they can be ready for rookie camp 1 week after the draft. It is your rookie year is not your rookie year. Your rookie year is your last year of college, draft prep, then your rookie year, all strapped together. And, taking it easy on these guys in terms of reps at the beginning of the season is just smart. It doesn't mean that they don't want to play young players. And the last part of that is the Steelers have historically really valued drafting underclassmen because of what you get at the end of that process. You get a young guy who, in the prime of his career, who's still cheap, right? Like there's a cap contract salary benefit to drafting young players. It also means you're drafting inexperienced players and also sometimes immature players. And so you don't want to give them a lot right away. I think it's crazy that people think the Steelers wouldn't want to play rookies, that they would have something against them. I think you're going to see almost all of the Steelers rookie class involve, like 4 or 5 guys I think you're going to see on the field this year, just like we did last year. That's a crazy narrative to me.
Matt, we talked about Roman Wilson's struggles, and we talked about that, even going back to last week. Kind of brought this question in my mind because you kind of compared it to where Joey was at early in the process last year. When did you feel like it started to click for him? Was it in training camp at some point, or like when did you even realize
training camp?
Okay, all right.
First day pads on at training camp is a different guy. Early in training camp, you could kind of see it was a little bit different. Pads went on, I was like, oh, no, that's different. And I think you're going to see some of that with Roman Wilson too. Part of the allure there is the physicality that he brings to the wide receiver position. And of course, you're not seeing any physicality at OTAs and minicamp. So,
Sure.
did see something today. Mark Robinson almost decapitated Pat Farkas.
Oh, geez.
It was a shovel pass gone wrong, and Mark read all of it and then some, and Pat was on the train tracks.
Should I ask him about that one?
You
Or
could.
no?
You could. I asked
Okay.
Mark Robinson, so it would be fair to get both perspectives
Okay.
on that play. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not down, or I'm not any more down on the pick than I was when I really liked it when they made it. I just think that people don't have realistic expectations for what rookies look like as they attempt to enter the NFL.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's stick with the receivers there for a second, because talked about Roman Wilson. You mentioned George Pickens in there. Man, do they need a big year from him? And we've talked about getting another receiver on the outside, but there's the idea, right? Like, what if we see George line up in the slot a little bit? You mentioned that was something that we saw a little bit today. Are we going to really see that, like, especially with the options that they have on the rosters? That's something that we could see that much of?
Well, the great thing about this Arthur Smith scheme is that, like, it kind of honestly devalues the differences between the wide receiver positions, because so often, one, it's play action. So, like, the defense treats it totally different. Two, condensed sets. So, like, when you think about that X receiver, that guy who's on the line of scrimmage, is over by the hash marks, on an island, one-on-one against a wide receiver, like, that job's one thing. Like, when you have a bunch formation with one guy going in motion and a tight end on the other line of the scrimmage, like, you don't even really have an X receiver. Like, yes, you technically have one receiver who's lined up on the line of scrimmage, but, like, that's a totally different job and role than, like, the first one I talked about. And so much of this offense is two tight ends, so you don't really have an X receiver, or, fullback, bunch. Like, it's really honestly going to be very difficult to define who is playing what among the Steelers wide receivers on a down by down basis, because there are, like, as many formations as there are plays in this offense, and a lot of them are very non-traditional, and you just have guys line up all over the place, and it's like, well, what do you call that? I don't know. And so, but I do think we're going to see them scheme George Pickens against players other than the other team's top corner. They're going to find a way to get him free. Like, the Steelers are going to try to shadow Joey Porter Jr. against number one receivers. And I have seen George Pickens against non-Joey Porter Jr. a whole bunch. Okay, so, like, they're finding ways to get him against other guys, whether that's moving him around, whether it's using motions and overloads and trips and quads and diamonds and bunches. But I think we are going to see them. Look, it's going to be vital. If they are only going to have the receivers they have right now, other teams are going to put so much attention on George Pickens. It is going to be absolutely vital that they move him, hide him, pick his guy, find different ways to get him free and loose and get him the football around all that attention. It's going to be an absolutely critical part of this offense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. I just thought it was interesting, in terms of the alignment, but you're right. When you go through the way that the scheme is kind of set up and got to get him free releases and stuff. Another thing that you mentioned going through there was the Mark Robinson play that he made on Pat Freiermuth. But Mark Robinson, not really a guy that we've talked about, like, kind of gets lost in the shuffle with this linebacker room, especially talking about if Cole Holcomb is going to be a part of it. Like, Mark Robinson may be fifth on the pecking order there. But interestingly enough, you threw out to me that he was wearing, or he was calling plays in base defense today.
Yeah, he was calling some plays with the twos. So it was like Queen and Payton Wilson, and then Robinson, and it was Tyler Murray. Holcomb is still not practicing. Did get an update from Mike Tomlin about Cole Holcomb today. Said he will be ready to go for training camp. So didn't necessarily specify, like, at the beginning, but did say, like, he will be able to participate in training camp. Is getting really good reports from the medical team. So expect Cole Holcomb to be back in your plans in your head. And then also, don't forget about Mark Robinson. I think he's a guy that, like, the kickoff to me is why you don't forget about Mark Robinson, because you have this completely new kickoff scheme. He's a proven special teamer. He has that perfect sort of, like, big athlete special teamer body that you'd be looking for that role. I think they could keep five linebackers. But it's just interesting to me that because I think for a long time, a lot of the knock on Mark Robinson is that a great athlete, maybe not necessarily always like fully up to speed on what he's supposed to be doing, or maybe not what he's supposed to be doing, but the position has been natural to him. Like he hasn't flowed like a natural linebacker to someone that came to the position later. Interesting to have that guy be the one calling plays, right? Like that to me is a sign of faith that here's someone that understands what we're doing and at a pretty high level to be the one getting the defense organized. And so I thought that was pretty interesting today. Don't forget about him for sure, because I think he's like, if I made a 90-man roster right now, and maybe a 53-man roster, and I will be doing that right after minicamp on Friday, so look for that at SteelersNow.com. If I made a 53-man roster right now, I think Mark Robinson would be on it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the special teams value that he brings. The trajectory to me has been so interesting because I just felt like it was going to be a slower, like somebody that's new to the position, only playing it 1 year prior to being drafted by the Steelers. Like you felt like it was going to take time and it was a project. But I really thought there were some encouraging things on film down the stretch last year, the last 2 or 3 weeks, where I was like, man, I'm curious to see what happens this spring. Obviously, at the time didn't know that they would add Patrick Queen and draft Payton Wilson. But, you know, I'll be curious to see what training camp looks like for him and what the preseason looks like for him.
Yeah, the preseason will be really big for him, too, because, you know, Robertson, Holcomb, and Queen have been there, done that guys. So
yeah, sure.
There's going to be a lot of reps there for a guy like Mark Robinson and Payton Wilson to really show what they have. And I think that's going to be exciting.
Sticking on the defensive side, a guy coming back into the fold, Cam Heyward. Carl Dunbar spoke about him. Said he kind of expects Cam to be back to Cam this year, doesn't think that the injury that he suffered last year is something that is going to go into this season and impact him. Your thoughts on that statement? Do you kind of agree with that there? And anything that you've seen, obviously not a ton, they don't have the pads on yet or anything like that, but to lead you to believe one way or another if you are in line with that statement?
Mike Tomlin actually pointed out today that Cam Heyward did not take a team rep. I didn't even notice that he didn't. Back to the conversation about how pointless like the OTA thing was and the flare up over that. I think this one, I don't know. Like, I think it's easy to have confidence in Cam Heyward, the person. I think when you know him, you know how hard he works, you know how dedicated he is, how much he believes in himself and what this team is doing and trying to accomplish. He was, getting into an argument with Mike Tomlin after practice today about the highest paid defensive lineman of all time. Like, he's a smart guy. He understands the game, but he's like in it. He's passionate about it. And the thing you don't have, I think there are sometimes questions about people when they get older in their careers is like, how much do they still want it? Like, how much do they still want to be out here at minicamp in June? It's hot for Pittsburgh anyway. Like, this is pointless. How much does he really want it? And I think there should be no questions about how much Cam Heyward really wants it. Like, he really, really wants it. Always has. I was talking to him earlier, I think in OTAs. He was like, it was killing me last year to not practice every day. Like, I wanted my whole career to never want to be those guys that would take a veteran day, that would take a rep away and be like, oh, I don't need it. I'll be fine. Like, he's like, it killed me to not practice every week last year. So I think you feel very good about the person putting in the work required and having the motivation to do it. I agree with that 100%. Now, am I banking on Cam Heyward being the same player he was before his injury this year? I don't know. I think I would want to see it first. Like, I certainly think it's possible, but I think I would want to see it first.
So can you understand? I know that we've had a lot of conversations about the contract and stuff like that. Can you kind of see where people are coming from then with like the trepidation in terms of giving him money beyond this year?
No, because he doesn't have to be the player he was before to be very, very useful and good. Like, you need rotational defensive linemen, like that make decent money. Like your fourth and fifth defensive linemen are guys that get paid. Like, they're not like, that's not like scrubs. Those are guys that get paid and play a whole lot. And so I don't have a problem with giving him money because I think even if he's not the player that he was in 2022, he can still be an extremely valuable part of this team. The question comes, what is a fair price? Certainly, I'm not giving him $23 million a year, but it's weird to me that so many are like, well, they can't pay him what he's asking for. I've not seen it reported what he's asking for. I don't know what he's asking.
Yeah, I think people are trying to line
it.
up the top 5. Like that was a good number you threw out there, because that is probably what that's top 5-ish money. So
yeah,
if
I would
people
not
are
pay
trying to line
$23
those
million
two up
a year.
Yeah,
but he hasn't said he's asking for that either. Nor do I think he is.
Right.
And so, I don't. That's hard for me to jive. Like, you don't even know what he's asking for. Why do you not want him? It's just.
Yeah.
I feel like there's this. Whenever there's a player-team dispute, the fans just immediately wall up for the team, and they're like, "No, man, you should play for 4 cents for my team, because it's my team."
You're privileged to play for this team. Yep.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And so I still think there's going to be a deal, and I'd be surprised if it doesn't get done. I do think they may want to wait and see what they're doing or not doing a wide receiver before they deal with Cam Heyward. I think that would be smart, because what they do in terms of pushing money into the future years, they don't have to do that if they're not going to sign or add a wide receiver. So I can see why Cam Heyward might not be a priority for the Steelers to take care of right now. Absolutely.
Somebody else that is looking for a contract beyond 2024, and if he does not get one, would be a free agent. Najee Harris, back at practice today, but not participating. Did you see Najee? Is he doing anything there, or is he just kind of present? Okay.
I saw him. He had his uniform on.
Okay.
He wasn't doing a lot that I could see. They do have an indoor facility where guys can do stuff that we can't see. I don't know if maybe he's dealing with a minor injury. Mike Tomlin said it was, nothing, that to be concerned about or about his availability. I will add that Mike Tomlin has said that before, and things turn out to be quite significant. So I'm not necessarily always going to take him at his word there, but just relaying the message that he said it was nothing. So I for now, have no reason to say that it isn't. So I guess we'll go with it. Again, Najee Harris is a player. If I was Najee Harris, I'd be trying not to do anything. So, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to bring up too, you're seeing more and more of that. I feel like with players, it's interesting though to, go through OTAs and then not, and not saying that he's not, maybe he is injured and that's the reason that he's not participating or whatever. But it's interesting, not even just talking about Steelers, league wide guys not participating in mandatory minicamp when they participated in OTAs why do you think that would be the case?
I don't know. That's interesting. I would assume that this Najee thing is in reaction to some. If I was speculating, but I would assume this is some minor injury that he has just pulled his hamstring or something.
Yeah, but that's why I preface by saying we might not talking about Najee here, but even league wide, you're seeing guys that were at OTAs maybe not participate. I was like, is it more of a statement at that point? Because that's when you can be fined. So I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't really know. The only guys I know that aren't at minicamp that I've written about were T. Higgins and Austin Cooper.
Hassan Reddick. Well, the Rodgers situation is weird. Who knows what he's doing? Robert Saleh probably didn't answer that very well.
He's in a cave somewhere, probably.
Yeah.
It's fine. Would you go on an ayahuasca retreat with Aaron Rodgers? Would you be I'm not a substance user in general, but I think not. Okay, I don't. It's not something that's on my bucket list to do, but I just think I want to see what that guy is really like. I don't know.
I don't know if I want to find out, to be quite honest.
You could be right. Maybe I don't know, eats the hearts out of wild animals while he's there. I don't know. It could be. It could
well,
be
that's
anything.
the thing is, Not
It could be
knowing, you
anything.
can create anything in your mind. It's almost like a
That's
mystique.
true.
So I'd
That's
rather
true.
kind of keep it in the dark, no pun intended there, and just be able to create whatever I want in my mind in terms of what he is like, as opposed to actually finding out.
I can see the allure there. I don't know. I think the journalist in me just wants to know. Wants to know the truth. I want to know what it's really like.
Yeah. Also, I'm part of this. I was born in 1995. I have my phone in my hand at all times. If I'm going on an ayahuasca retreat, I know that that's not going to be the case. Don't know if I could do it. So I'm probably lasting a few hours.
I could do it. I could do it. I'm that Oregon Trail hose water drinking generation. We got told to go outside and not come back. I'm good. To steer the conversation far back to football.
Kind of enjoying it, but
we did have other things we wanted to talk about, didn't we?
No, that was the last one, at least on my list. Unless there was something that got brought up to you or a question you would answer something.
No, actually. Keanu Benton was one I wanted to talk about. Just keep an eye on that young man. I think the Steelers got something pretty good there. Like,
you know what?
He lost some weight. I watched him bat on a pass to the line today, and I had to double check the number because I was like, that was 95 up there. Like, I thought maybe that was a blitz, or was that linebacker? What? And I thought, standing next to Bo Marchionte from Culture Pro, I was like, did he lose weight? Like, he looks. And I asked him, I was like, yeah, he lost a little bit of weight. And he's talking about that rookie year process, and I think he could be. Carl Dunbar said he left 7 sacks on the table last year that he feels like he should have got.
Yeah. Nick, for a lot of times when Fairball Fridays take place, we take 2X for questions and kind of let that steer the ship for the show. Last week, Nick was like, listen, we can answer as many questions people have, but we got to talk about Keanu Benton. That was specifically one player that he wanted to talk about. Thinks he's in line for a big year too. And it's interesting that you mentioned about finishing plays, because that's the one area where we talked about too. Not obviously apples to apples here. But we talked about, rookie year Ryan Shazier, right? That was a big, he's always around the ball, but wasn't finishing plays. And, maybe that's not a great comparison to talk about a linebacker with a defensive lineman, but Keanu Benton, like you said, there's more on the plate there last year that he could have finished.
Yeah, I think so. I think about maybe a little bit of a closer comparison. I think about early career Bud Dupree, where he was he's doing a lot of things right, and it was still a productive player, but then we saw some things click, and then he became very productive, and not just a guy who got the job done. I can definitely see that coming. He said he needed to learn a lot about this defensive scheme. He said because everybody's so fast that you have to anticipate what TJ is going to do. If you're watching what TJ does and then trying to react and play off it, you're too slow. You have to anticipate what he's going to do, and he's like, that knowledge took him time. He said, really, for him, my rookie year was not that taxing physically. I got brought along slowly. He's like, for me, the mental part of it was really hard. It was cramming every day to try to figure out, okay, every scenario, what's Cam going to do? What's TJ going to do? What's Larry going to do? Where should I go? How should I attack this leverage? What are these guys trying to do to me? He said it feels like he's in a lot better place mentally to be able to take full advantage of the opportunities he gets. And man, if Cam Heyward is back, and then you got Benton playing at a higher level, that defense, that defense could start to look real nice. I'm telling you, I'm very high on this defense right now.
Absolutely, I am too.
On this podcast, we only get high on defense.
There we go.
To tie that back to the previous conversation.
If I can, I'll get high on the defense and then go on Aaron Rodgers retreat with him. There we go.
Maybe just me and Keanu will go fishing. He's a big fisherman, so I don't need.
So is Patrick Queen. So
that's the other thing, is that I don't need. I can just go fishing and not pay attention to my phone or the rest of the world.
That's a good outlet. That's a good outlet right there. Alan, other than maybe on a dock with Keanu Benton, where can the people find you?
That'd be sick. We need to make that happen. One more day minicamp at UPMC Arena Sports Complex tomorrow. Follow along at @Saunders_PGH on Twitter. PGH Steelers Now, SteelersNow.com. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got all kinds of videos up there. Mike Tomlin setting the tone. First drill of practice today with the defensive line. I love just watching him watch practice, the way he interacts with guys, motivates, good stuff. That's 2 videos up there. Also, me and Nick's practice report and all kinds of stuff coming up as we wrap up minicamp this week. Keep an eye out for it.
There we go. We just crossed 12,700 subscribers on the YouTube channel. We appreciate that. Keep them coming. 13,000 next. And also next month, Alan, will be the 1-year anniversary of this show. Very first episode was recorded on July 27th. So a little over a month from now to the 1-year anniversary.
All right, we'll have to do something special for that one.
Well, it's on a Saturday, but specifically the 1 year itself is on a Saturday. But
I mean, we could have a special Saturday show for the 1 year.
I'm not opposed. I'm just throwing it out there. It would have to be something other than the normal Monday through Friday. I just wanted to preface by saying that because it is Saturday.
We'll figure it out.
There we go. But we appreciate all you guys that watch, listen to this show, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit us in the comments with your thoughts on anything that we talked about, a question for a future episode. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. You'll find us on any listening platform or, of course, over on YouTube. Follow me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.